Welcome back to another web development video. Today I wanted to talk about some things that I've been thinking about over the last couple of weeks, and just wanted to, I've already shared a little bit of this as far as some kind of high level concepts in how to share your ideas with leadership. This actually is more like before you get to that process. So how do you be a positive agent of change in your company, in your department, on your team? This is a struggle for a lot of people who have ideas and who have new ideas about processes or products or features or way that you're doing things. It's not always easy to be a person who, in America we say, rocks the boat. You're a person who's shaking things up. There are people out there, there are people on your teams. Some of them are there for that express purpose. Maybe you are there for that express purpose to shake things up, and maybe you were brought in to do that. But there's also going to be a group of people who that's not their strength, that's not the way they think. You're going to have bosses who are there to make sure everything runs smoothly and doesn't get too chaotic. So how do we work in that tension? How do we deal with that tension? Not just of being an agent of change, someone who changes things or who seeks change, but how do you do it in a positive way that's helpful for you, and it's helpful for your company, or it's helpful for your team or your department or your group or whatever you're in. So I just want to quickly run through the things that I think about whenever, because I have a lot of ideas, and I have a lot of ideas that just fall to the wayside. Some of them are really great. A couple of them are really great. Most of them are I don't know enough to know whether they're good or not, and so I don't always get feedback on that either. So let's go through my process, and maybe this will be a process that can help you if you're a person who constantly is producing ideas. The first is how do you share ideas within a group or a company or a department or a team? This is our main goal here. So at the end, how can I do this? So I'm just going to give you, I think there are 10 steps in here. It just came out that way. So the first step is to not neglect your ideas. So write down your ideas. When you have the idea, when you're thinking about it, write it down. I like to keep a small notebook, like a journaling type notebook or a sketchbook. And when I have an idea, I sketch it out, I write it down. Because sometimes I don't have ideas at work. Sometimes I have ideas at the grocery store, or sometimes I have ideas while I'm with my kids, or when I'm reading an article online. And so I try to be really good at stopping, writing down the idea. If I don't have my book with me, then I use just kind of a basic note-taking app, or you could use Evernote or something like that on your phone. Something where you can draw. So I'll just sketch something out with my finger. I'll type down my idea in Google Docs or whatever it is. Just get the idea out of your head and onto a place that you can get back to it later. Number two, I find it very important, and this is some of the best advice that was given to me, was to create some sort of prototype. It's awesome to have ideas, and very rarely are you capable of expressing the idea in a way that other people can understand it and create a mental model. So whether it's out of paper or whether it's a digital prototype, whether it's sketching on a piece of paper, something, just be able to visually show and display. And the more elaborate your prototype, or at least the closer the prototype is to what you're actually thinking, the better people are going to be able to understand it. It doesn't have to be the final, that a working prototype doesn't mean that this is what everything is going to continue to look like, but it's just, this is the thing that people need to be able to connect the words of your idea to something actual. Because a lot of times people can't understand how this is actually going to help until they get in and they start using it, they start putting their hands on it. or at least they can understand the analogy. But if you can make the analogy concrete for them, you have a better chance of them being able to accept the idea, or at least, to take it seriously and have a conversation about the idea. Otherwise, people are like, I don't get it, and then they move on with life. So, create some sort of a prototype, some sort of visual that people can see or touch or hear or understand. Number 3, so this is all prep work before you tell anybody. Okay, so it's, these first things are from the conception of the idea, and now you have a prototype, and now you're thinking, I really want to share this with somebody. Okay, so this is kind of the stage that you're at. So number 3 would be to learn as much as you can about the strategic direction of whoever you're going to speak to, whoever the idea is going to go to. That's who I'm calling the audience. So in my case, I work in a corporate environment. I'm pretty deep down into the corporate environment, but I'm not high up as far as, on the organization chart. I'm pretty low. But I know a few things. I'm in a few meetings, but there are a lot of meetings that are happening across departments, and people who are running whole departments who are meeting with one another, and they're laying out the strategic direction of the whole company. My company it's in publishing, so we have obviously we have the operations side, which makes the books and does all that kind of stuff, but we also have a marketing side. We also have an editorial side. So there are a lot of different parts to this particular company that I'm in, and just those main 3 parts, I'm only in one of those. So I'm not able to cross over because I'm not in those high level meetings where they're creating bridges or where they're deciding the fate of all 3 of those different departments or areas. So for me, maybe my idea does not fit into the strategic direction, or maybe it's been tried before. I have no idea. That's another part, is I'm relatively new, within the last 3 years. So there is a 60-year history here. So maybe these things aren't exactly new that I'm coming up with. I have to trust that there are people who have been here for the life of the company, and they have been here to see the things come and go, or the things that have been used or changed or whatever. Even the director of my department has been in this work for 20 years. So, he has seen a lot of things happen that I have not seen, at least in this particular environment. So have some humility, understand that you don't know everything, and try to learn as much as you can. So maybe that means going to your immediate boss and saying, what are we doing about this? Or are you taking ideas in this direction? So try to match up whatever your idea is with the strategic direction of the people that you're wanting to talk to. Okay, and then you have to ask yourself, does my idea fit into that direction? You really need to take a hard look at your idea, and this is a real key point for people who are idea people. Real idea people have so many ideas that they cannot hold on to one of them. It can't be your pet. So if you really are a person who just generates a slew of ideas all the time, you're probably not going to be holding on to any particular idea. But if there is an idea that you just kind of fall for and have an affinity for, you need to really take a hard look at that and say, is this idea really going to fit into the direction of the people I want to talk to, the people who can make this happen in real life? Because unless you're at the top of the food chain, you can't make anything happen by yourself. You need to be able to present that to someone else who at the very least gives you the okay, to begin to implement that idea. So this is a collaborative effort, and because it's collaborative, it has to fit into other things. It has to come into the hierarchy of what's going on, and the hierarchy of the company is typically the strategic direction that particular departments or teams or companies have decided, usually before you got there. sometimes while you're there and without your consent. So you have to kind of deal with that internally as well within yourself. But you need to really come to a very honest understanding, an honest evaluation of your idea, and does it fit into the direction of the audience. So if all those things line up, you have your idea, you've written it down, you've created a prototype, you've really considered, you've learned what you can about the direction of your team or your organization or your company, and you've honestly looked at your idea and lined it up with that strategic direction. You said, okay, these are all moving in forward positive yes directions. Then the next step would be to think about who should you deliver the idea to, and then how should you deliver that idea. So first, who. I have a couple of, I've probably got 4 or 5 layers between me and the top level bosses of the company. Maybe there are more layers than that, I don't know, but that's what I can see. So I have to consider, if I jump a layer up, what does that mean to the person I jump over? If I go to the next person up, is that idea going to be delivered? Can that person take that idea and deliver it into a bigger place? It's kind of like eating a smaller fish, right? So there's one, a medium-sized fish eats the small fish, but then the medium-sized fish gets eaten by the big fish. And there's a way for you to take your small idea and to expand it. You can either get into the room where there are people who can expand that idea and they can say yes or no, or you can deliver that idea to someone who is in the room with those people who can take that idea. And it's a little bit like a chain reaction, especially if it's a good idea, and especially if it's an idea that connects in with the strategic direction. You might just say it in passing. You might say it in a small meeting with your supervisor, or you might say it with a colleague who's been there and he's your senior or she's your senior. And that person can then take and begin to disseminate that idea throughout the company. And they are in places, they're in meetings that you're not in. So this is kind of where I find myself, is I don't have a lot of meetings. I'm more of a deliverables type. So my supervisor, who has a director over him, they are in different meetings because he's doing coordination in a different way across the team. But I'm just an implementer, so I'm getting it, I'm creating the things, I'm the hands. But he's more of the head in our particular situation and department. And so for me to take on the idea and move from hands to head is kind of a challenge in some ways to his position and his authority. So I have to think about those types of things. How is that going to look? And a lot of times I'll just go straight up the line to my supervisor. And so I'll say, hey, I have an idea. I've been thinking about this thing, or we were talking about this in a meeting, and I have an idea in this direction. Would you like to hear it? And then if he hears it and says, you should really try to get an audience with these people, or you should tell this person, or I don't really know what to do with that, maybe you can take it to another person. Now I've gotten permission to be able to deliver that idea past him. So that's it's very difficult because it's kind of slow and you don't know how it's going to turn out. You could just go up, even if you know who you should deliver it to. That person may or may not hear you, or even if they hear you, the person that you jumped over, the people that you jumped over, might feel hurt. They might feel harmed, and there might be a kind of a break in that relationship because you didn't include them in the process. So these are the kinds of things that you have to kind of watch and you have to be mindful of whenever you're delivering your ideas up the hierarchy in the organization or on the team. The second part is, how should you deliver it? So Should you have a face-to-face meeting? Should you try to call a meeting? Should you have something kind of impromptu where you just stop by and you show them really quickly? Um, should it be part of your regular? I have a regular meeting every week with my supervisor, so that kind of is an area where we can share and talk. And I know that that's a safe place for me to be able to deliver ideas. Sometimes it needs more preparatory work and kind of needs to be in a fuller setting, or it needs to be something that needs to be shared with the team because they would be involved in the larger idea as well. Sometimes it's an email that's a call for ideas, right? So we've had that at different times when I've been here where we're looking for new ideas in this way. Give us your new ideas, and then you have these things written down, and this is the perfect time for you to really look and say, is this an idea that's for now, and is it developed enough that if they come back and say, hey, this is great, can you present this, you need to be ready to present it. Or you need to be ready to say, you know what, it was just like a small seed of an idea, but I'll work on a prototype. Okay, so you have to be ready. But if you haven't fleshed it out, if you don't know what it's going to look like, then maybe that's an idea that you need to sit on for a while and come back to in the future. Number 6, ask for a chance to present the idea. Okay, like I said, I have a regular meeting where I have the freedom to kind of bounce ideas off, especially little small seeds of an idea. But we also have a larger departmental meeting that I can get into, and I can actually ask for time to speak, in that meeting, or to present or share work that I'm doing. So that's another courtesy to the people who are over you, is to ask for that chance and not just assume that you have that chance, or to go in and say, I'm just going to take up the time, whether you like it or not. Here's the idea, bam, 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 and then you're just kind of beating people up with your idea at that point. That's not going to get you heard. They're going to hear you, but they're not going to listen. And what you want people to do is you want to have them listen and then begin to move that idea to a new place. Number 7, if and when you get the chance to present your idea, I suggest that you show them, you tell them the idea, and then you ask for feedback. So like I said before, having a prototype means that you can now reveal this to them. So give them a very brief introduction. This is the problem that I'm trying to solve. This is what we've been thinking about. Hey, this might be a really interesting way to solve this. And then you begin to show them what you're talking about. And as you're showing, you're getting an opportunity to tell them as you move through the prototype or as they touch the prototype. And then they're going to be asking for, they're going to ask you questions. And so you need to just kind of be prepared that when they come with the questions, you need to be ready to ask them, or to say, you know what, I haven't really thought about that. That's really interesting. And then ask them questions back. Why do you think that would be important? What are you doing with it? What do you anticipate doing with it that would make that an important thing? So take this as a time to banter back and forth, receiving questions, giving answers, but also asking some questions yourself about why, trying to understand why they would ask that question. Some questions are obvious. How do we make money off this? How do we scale this? How do we monetize this? So you really need to have those questions kind of thought through in your mind, or to at least have the humility to say, you know what, I don't know. I would need someone who's smarter than me, and I've had to say that in meetings before. I think this is a great idea, but I'm not equipped to know how to scale this. I haven't been in this industry my entire career. I don't understand it all, but I do know that this is relevant, and I do know that this is good. And so you just kind of have to have some humility about saying, we're a part of a group here, and if this goes farther, I really need some people to kind of figure that out with me. And that is going to be a more receptive position and a posture in a meeting where you're presenting a new idea than if you try to make stuff up, or if you try to be defensive. I'm really sorry for you if you're in a sort of cutthroat company like that, but most companies are just not like that, especially if you're in design or development or some sort of creative field. So, number 8, dealing with a lack of enthusiasm or a rejection, outright rejection of the idea. This is a hard part. So you presented it, you've gotten an audience, you've done all the work up front, and then you either get no response, or it's a lackluster response, or they're just like, well, that's nice, I just don't see how it works. Or if they just out and out say, we've done this before, not going to do it again, here's what happened. Or just say, sorry, we don't have the money for that, or that would be nice, but it's not going to happen. So you just have to, again, you're an ideas person. You have an idea every 10 minutes. You are seeing things across many different spectrums and many different problems. If someone rejects your idea, you just have to say, you know what? Thank you for listening. I appreciate it. And maybe there's some way that it can still be relevant. So I'll keep working on it. That's a good way to deal with the lack of or to deal with the rejection of your idea. It may be that this is an idea that you want to die on, and so you want to make your career on this idea. And if your present company can't do it or doesn't want to do it, or you've presented it multiple times and you keep getting rejected, then I think at that moment you have to start thinking, is this idea worth leaving? Is it worth taking to another company? Is it worth going outside of my present situation in order to create connections? Because some companies, it's just not going to be their direction. They're just not going to go that way. And if everything is fine in the company and there's no reason within the industry for them to completely change direction, then they're not going to go with your idea ever, because that's not what they want to do. And it's been decided that's not what they want to do. So unless you wind up being the ultimate decision maker, they're not going to go in that direction. Lack of enthusiasm is different. Maybe you're in front of the wrong audience. Maybe it's the wrong timing. Maybe you didn't present it as well as you could. Maybe there are things that they said that you can tweak the presentation, or you can tweak the prototype, or tweak the idea a little bit to bring it a little bit more in line with a pet project of that person, or some direction that the strategic direction that the department is coming in. So you're not going in an opposite direction as a strategic direction, but maybe you're just askewed. You're going perpendicular to that direction and not with it. So how can you turn that idea to be a little bit more in line with the strategic direction that the department or the company or the group or the team has decided? So rejection is real. Don't fall in love with your ideas. They're not rejecting you, they're rejecting the idea. Okay, that's really important to remember. So don't take it personal when they say we don't want to do this. You might feel like your ideas are personal to you, but you are the messenger of the idea. You are the one who sees, and that doesn't change just because a particular idea that you thought was going to go well didn't. Which brings us to number 9. Listen to the feedback that they're giving you. So you're not getting much enthusiasm, you're getting the idea rejected. It's okay to ask. I think it's okay to ask, especially if you've been in the company for a little while, to respectfully ask, can you tell me why you think that way? I notice that you're not as enthusiastic as I am. So what is it missing? What's missing for you to be able to get to that same enthusiasm level that you're at? Maybe they'll tell you they didn't understand the concept. Maybe they'll tell you, I get the concept, but your prototype just seems like a really poor representation of that. Or I was thinking this, or, it could be a 100 different things. So try to listen to the feedback. If you're in a larger group, the feedback is, a little bit better because you're going to get a lot of people. If you're one-on-one, then just really listen to the feedback of that person, because if you decided to go through a particular person and not around them, then that person is going to have to help you carry this thing. So if they give you feedback like go back and work this, or go back and fix this, I didn't understand it, then go back and fix it and see if their feedback is good. And if you fix it, try to take it even farther. If they're pulling you out of the original direction, how can you take your original direction and their feedback and create a new synthesis and a new part of the project or a feature or something like that? So really try to use the feedback. It's not there to hurt you. The feedback is there to help you, even if the words are hurtful, even if the attitude is hurtful, even if the way they present it, the feedback is hurtful, because they may just not know how to give good feedback. You may not know how to take good feedback and good criticism. Even if they're being gentle about it, maybe you're taking it on too personally. So that's my best advice there, is to try not to take it too personally. Don't let it be so personal that you don't hear what they're saying, and then take those things and implement it. And if it makes your product crap, then don't implement it and say, you know what, I tried that, this is what it looks like. Because a lot of people, when they give feedback, they're kind of giving it blind. They want to see a change, but they don't have any sort of vision about what that change is going to do to the overall product, if it actually happens. So they are going to need to see it again, and then be like, well, I know I said that, but that is terrible. And so you just need to know that that is the way that people are, and it's really the importance of prototyping. And then number 10 is an evaluation. So based on the reaction that you get and the feedback, especially if it's negative, should you continue forward with the idea? Even if the feedback is positive, you really need to evaluate all the feedback that you've received, the initial reaction that you received from them. And then you need to really just take a hard look at the idea and say, is this idea still something that I should move forward with? And like I was saying before, if it's an idea that you should move forward with, should I move forward with this idea at this company? Is it just too early? Do I need to wait until some market conditions or strategic directions change? Or is this going to be worth everyone's time and effort, even if they want to do it? You may have come in the process of sharing, you may have come to the conclusion that it's not going to be worth anybody's time and effort to be able to make this sort of shift, because it's a huge shift, and by the time they make it, it's going to be too late. So this is a reality too. We have to do these things in the realm of time and space, both. And so those things all have to fit together to make the idea happen. And then the final thing is, do you need to take this idea? Is this idea worthy of creating something new? Should you make a whole new company? Should you turn this into something bigger and try to snowball it into something? And then you have to start making choices about, is your job getting in the way of you being able to do this? How much is there to lose? Is this a risk that you're willing to take to leave? Or should you try to do it in conjunction with your job? So you're doing it on the sides or on the weekend. So these are all ideas that you kind of have to deal with based on the reaction and the feedback that you get. Hopefully this has been really helpful. You hear a lot of themes in there. One is respect for those who are over you. It's really important. No one's going to listen to you if you're disrespectful to their position, if you're disrespectful to the knowledge that they have, because they know more than you. If they've been there longer and they have a higher position than you, they know more across the company than you know. So that's kind of the first place that you need to understand. Two is don't be married to your ideas. especially if you're supposed to be an ideas person, or you just know that you are an ideas person. More are going to come. If one gets shot down, don't worry about it. Move on. You have 15 others that you thought of yesterday. So just be diligent to write it down and to look for times and opportunities to present those ideas. It could just be in conversations. It could be formally in a meeting. But just take a real hard look at the idea and see if it's something that that needs to be brought forward. And then 3, don't take it personally. So when someone rejects your idea, it doesn't mean that they're rejecting you as a person. They're just saying this idea is not right, or I don't understand, or based on all the things that I know about what we're doing and where we're going, the idea doesn't fit in to those plans. So can you change it? Can you move it closer to what we're doing? Or it's just too much time and effort and energy. We've done it before and it just hasn't worked. So unless you can find a new way to do it, there's no way that we could do this right now. So I appreciate the time that you're giving me here to let me just kind of speak into this idea. I hope that it's been helpful for you. If you have any questions or you have any sort of feedback, please leave it down in the comments below, and I'll get to those quickly, usually within a day or two. And I love to hear your feedback. I love to hear your reactions. If this is helpful, or if you have something to add or an experience to add to some of these things about what's been helpful for you or what didn't work. Sometimes what didn't work is actually super helpful for others because they know what to avoid. So don't be afraid, to be humble and share some instances where you've done something that didn't work. I have not always taken this tact, and this is the more mature me at 40 plus now, looking back and saying these are the ways that I do things now, but that hasn't always been. I've been too excited about my own ideas to be quiet and just let them kind of marinate. And if they're not concrete, if they don't have something of value that you can show to someone, then they just kind of go off and they're like vapor in the air. They just go away. So make sure that you have something to be able to share with people and that you do it respectfully. You can follow me on Twitter at Brian Hefferkamp is my name, and I'm pretty active on Twitter but not on Facebook, so don't try to connect with me too much on Facebook. I keep that for other people, not for me. But on Twitter I'm active, sharing thoughts I have, generally just sharing the work that I've been doing, kind of experiments and stuff like that, and connecting with other developers. I also have a YouTube channel that you can subscribe to, so youtube.com/user/jbhafferkamp, and I post videos like this frequently enough, but I have a lot of stuff on there, over 100 videos on web development and web design. And I also wanted to tell you about a project that I've been working on. It's called skmmr, skmmr, and you can find it at skmmr.news. So it's not a .com, it's a .news domain. And you can see what it looks like here on the right side of the screen. This is the desktop version, but it actually works really great. I built it mobile first, so the desktop version is good, but the mobile version is a lot better. And what this is, it's a skimmable news feed. You can choose from over 100 really high quality news resources like the New York Times or BBC News or whatever, and it looks just like you see it. So it's an image with the description, like a short summary, and then the headline of the story. And if you get the top stories, that's like the 10 featured stories, for each particular resource. And if you click on latest, you'll get the 100 most recent news stories. And you can choose, and there's an English only option. We have news in different languages. You can get news from different countries. So if you just click on the menu there in the top right, then you can get the news from different countries. Just click on the flag, and it's localized, so it'll be in your own language. It's not all just in English. So if you're reading um, an Israeli newspaper, it's in uh, Hebrew. So it's really nice. Or if you're reading an Arabic newspaper, Egyptian stories, you're getting it in Arabic. So it's really, I use it almost every day, and I encourage you to, because it's like a combination of Facebook, where there's a feed that you can just kind of scroll through the news, except it's not your friends deciding what kind of news you should see, or it's not advertisers deciding. It's you getting a chance to decide and choose what source you want to get your news from, but it's in a very familiar format. So no ads, no distractions. You're just kind of getting it. If you want to read more, you just click on the headline or the image, and it'll take you to the actual news story at the news source. And for me personally, I love Reuters because it's just kind of straight down the line news. It's not a lot of commentary or anything. And so I essentially built this app for myself so that I could get the news in the way I wanted to get it. And so far we've had, I don't know, 100, 150 people a week who are using Skimmer. I'd love to see thousands of people using Skimmer, just because they're quality news sources. We don't track you. There's no advertising on the website. And then at the bottom, you can provide some feedback. So I'd love to hear your feedback on what could be changed or what could be different, what you'd like to see as far as features, or you'd like to see happen in the future. I have some updates and things I've been working on based on feedback that I'm getting from different users and from people that I know personally who are using it as well. And please share the URL skimmer.news with everybody you know. I think it's a really kind of a quality product. It's super fast, very lightweight, and international, which is really different. So, and then finally, you can also support me on Patreon. So I provide my videos free of charge. I want to do that because people help me a lot whenever I was learning web design 20 years ago. And now I want to be able to give that back to people who are learning web development and web design and design right now. And so I offer all my videos for free on YouTube. But you can support me at Patreon at patreon.com/BrianHafferkamp. And I tend to do maybe some more personal videos and things like that over for Patreon subscribers. I'm hoping to be a lot more engaged with that, because I want to have a more personal side. Most of the things that I produce are screencasts or just a little less personal and about me. But I'd like that Patreon space to be a little bit more where we're talking about web development, and we're talking about web design. We're talking about the business side of being your own boss, or freelancing, or even just our personal stories about how we got where we are. So you can go there, and $1 a month is the lowest that you can do, which is, just $12 a year. It's not very much, and that would give you access to some more personal things about me, also deciding kind of what direction the videos should go in the future. And then if you do $25 a month, then I have 10 spots available at that level. And essentially we would have a Zoom meeting, so you'd have opportunity to speak into where my videos are going and series to do and stuff like that. But then you'd also have the opportunity once a month to just have a Zoom conference where we just get together with a video conference and talk for an hour about whatever you want to talk about, whatever kinds of questions that you have about the business, or about the work, or process, or tools, or whatever you want to talk about. Just having that opportunity to meet one another, meet other people who are in development or they're learning. So those are opportunities for you there, and I certainly appreciate everyone who would take the time to vote with their money. I have lots of subscribers, so you can subscribe on YouTube, and I appreciate that too. Hopefully this has been really good for you. If you have any questions, leave them in the comment section below, or if you have any thoughts or comments or suggestions or anything, feedback, you can leave them down in the comments below. It's been a little bit long and a little bit word heavy, so hopefully you've been able to stick with it for long enough, and then this will be something that'll help you in your position, like wherever you're working or with clients, about how to be an agent of change in your relationships where you are right now. Well, thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time.